Well, hey guys, it's Mike here from Just Car People Things. We are getting off the highway in Kentucky, and we have been down here kind of doing a little bit of the road trip thing. We live a little bit further up into the Midwest, and one of the things about that is that it's a lot nicer down here, even though it's 5 or 6 hours south, but the weather's a lot better, and we've got just a beautiful day today to be out and about and you know, enjoy all the fun of having a 1LE. And we have just all these beautiful Kentucky roads to be out on, and really wanted to endorse being out here as a road trip, which, you know, we're off to a good start because we just saw a deer, and that makes me feel better already. But we're going to try not to do too much damage, and it is the friendly reminder that these are public roads, and you do never know what is around that next blind corner. So we are not in a sterile environment like a racetrack, and so you get to have fun, but you have to leave that gap in the performance envelope of the car to be able to, you know, stop safely, to dodge something safely, and everything else. But we're on State Route 555 or 555, as some of the signs say down here. Just a beautiful spring day to be out, and I've really enjoyed this trip down here. I've been down here a bunch of times with some of you guys probably also follow the Topher. He's down here quite a bit, and used to have family property down here, so have been down and enjoyed that. I will say we went to Maker's Mark earlier today and did a tour of their distillery earlier today, and it was awesome. The road to get there too is super windy, and it's along a river or a stream, and it's just really one of the more beautiful drives. That being said, the road is probably a lane and a half wide in parts. It has no center line, and you have to be incredibly careful about actually driving it particularly hard. And that is very much true in our 1LE because it is a wide car. It's got a very wide tire set and a very just sort of wide stance compared to a lot of passenger cars, and you have to be cognizant of that and exactly how sort of everything works in that. I do have the car set up right now because we're on a little bit more of a touring road in touring, and have been enjoying rolling along in that. The body motions are very controlled, the steering's relatively light. I do have the rev match turned on. It's something you have to default to on every time that you're in the vehicle. There's a switch here to behind the steering wheel to turn it on and off. We also have the car set over to touring, but I'm going to jump to track mode. That makes the steering heavier. It sharpens the throttle response, and you might start noticing on camera you're going to see a little bit more of just the vibration come through the chassis, and it's a much stiffer ride. So it just automatically tightens up those mag dampeners, tightens up the steering and the steering input, and you get a much more kind of dialed down or buckled down driving sensation in the car. Everything gets a little bit more intense, has a little bit higher vibration, and is, I don't know, in my mind, a little bit more fun. So that said, we'll probably cruise along this little stretch of road for a while longer, and I will jump back into filming here in a minute when we get to some of the stretches that are a little bit more windy, and you can see you know, the chassis and the motor and the gearbox and everything in the 1LE really work together and build just a really nice curvy road fast drive experience. So cheers. Okay, so we're back here on a now slightly narrower 2-lane road, and what I've found in Kentucky is you've got roads that have 2 digits on them, so your interstates and your US routes and kind of the well-known roads that you'll have an exit ramp or maybe as limited access. Then you have roads that have 3 digits on them, like we were just on 555, and we have now transitioned to another road with 3 digits on it. But I'll note for you that when you get onto a road in Kentucky that has 4 digits, like we're passing right now, say 1579, that is going to be a road that is much smaller, much busier, and so they kind of have an informal classification system. I've noticed, I'm sure if you went on like Kentucky DOT's website, they would probably tell you this. But generally speaking, the smaller the digit, or potentially if your road has a name that you're heading for, that means you're probably going to be on what ultimately looks a lot like a cow path or a driveway. on occasion. So that being said, generally speaking, the roads are very smooth. This road was a little bit rougher coming in and out of where we're staying, but I will say that overall, the road conditions down here are excellent. I think I've only seen a handful of potholes. Probably one of the few complaints I would mention is I know we're coming up on a bridge right now. It's not uncommon to have bridge transitions that are pretty bumpy, and that just seems to be the fact that a lot of the pavement down here is much older, and it just kind of tends to settle out by those little junctions. The other thing that I've noticed, particularly on the more rural stretches of road, or the windier stretches, is that a lot of people have gravel driveways, and a lot of gravel is on the roads. So if you're down here, be very, oh, let's see, I dipped onto the rumble strips there, apologies. But I have noticed a lot of people have gravel driveways and similar, and as a result of that, you get a lot of gravel on the roads themselves. So something to be cognizant of if you've got a car with like small contact patches, or you're really cruising through corners. I would mention that to be aware of. The other thing that I've noticed in this is because the 1LE has such sticky factory tires, it picks up a lot of that, and I can hear it clinking off the underside of the car. So that's something we have to be really conscientious of, and obviously trying to destroy our vehicle with that gravel. So I do notice that. And then of course, as you get further into horse country, because it is Kentucky, and when you're not passing a trailer, you're passing a horse farm. I would mention that there's even been horse crap on the road. So that's something I wasn't expecting to have to dodge on a couple occasions, but it was something that we did have to end up dodging on a couple occasions. So always a good time, always exciting out here in this part of the world. But it is a good reminder. You've got these beautiful roads on some of these side roads, and really lets you chase apexes and be cognizant. The speed limit on a lot of these roads is wildly 55, so you can actually be going about the speed limit and really not be doing anything technically against the rules. And clearly you've got just these beautiful sweeping corners. Sometimes they're kind of blind. You do have to be very careful with that. Again, this is horse country, people cycle. This guy's towing a boat trailer. I mean, you just never know what you're going to find around the next bend. So you do have to be really cognizant of that. But you can get onto some of these side roads, and I'm sure when they're a little bit more lightly trafficked, have just a total blast. And here we are turning onto a real side road, heading back towards where we're staying. And you'll notice now this is no center line, super narrow. Some people out here having fun in their vehicles, but this is one of those that really you're probably not going to be able to go much more than 40 or 45 miles an hour. And you can also start to hear the amount of gravel just from the agriculture and everything else. The car is going to start picking up quite a bit. This feels like a really big car when you're on a road this narrow. It's kind of a glorified driveway, and you really got to be careful on some of these completely blind corners. So these types of roads are very, very, very common in Kentucky. And I said to my spouse there it's like a bulldozer road. Like we just ran a bulldozer through this stretch of the world and turned around and paved over it, which of course they don't have the cycle of freezing and thawing like we do further north in the Midwest. So a lot of times these roads are much better kept and better taken care of. But that said, it's an absolute blast to be able to come out here and experience this. You just got to be kind of careful about not meeting the locals head on. I do, having the S2000 at home, have now recognized that the S2000 in many ways is probably a little bit more fun of a car out here, because one, it's a convertible, and today's a beautiful 68-degree sunny day, and two, it's going to be a little bit narrower. It's a smaller car, whereas a 1LE, this, we're on a one-lane road that's two directions right now. This is a big wide car, so if you're a Corvette guy, or you're running a Lexus LC, or you're out in some big kind of GT car, there are roads for you around here, but I'm going to say to you, you're probably going to want to be really careful about running those cars particularly hard in these stretches. That said, the scenery is gorgeous, things are in bloom right now, and it's a lot of fun until you run upon someone who's got a junkyard in their side yard. But you just got to be really careful, because you never know when you're going to pass somebody who is mowing their lawn or riding their horse. Some of the most fun is when you get that exhaust pop and you're out here in an area where you have really good sight lines. Of course, the downside to that is you can very easily get yourself to a place like that where you can lose your sight lines nearly instantly up and over this little ridge we're chasing along here. Well, the wind is whipping out here in our Kentucky cabin here. We're probably about halfway between Bardstown and Lexington on the map, which is really smack in the middle of just about nowhere. But that being said, this is one of the more fun cars I see out here. There are a fair number of Corvettes, though, on the road, which is probably not a surprise, given they build them in Bowling Green, which isn't too far from here, probably about 90 miles away. This is probably one of the dirtier states you're going to see our beloved 1LE in. You'll notice it looks like we've been off-roading. We've been building up some brake dust, but we've probably gone about 500 to 600 miles since I last washed the car, and been on the road trip, and really have been taking the time to enjoy the car, bring it out, have a good time out here on these really beautiful rural Kentucky roads, and get a little of that sunshine that we don't always get in the upper Midwest down here as you get a little closer to the south. That said, no complaints at all from the 1LE. Everything has been virtually flawless on the car. I do wish maybe I might have brought the S2000 down along with, simply for the fact the S2000 is just a little bit better on these really narrow and super tight, almost one-lane roads. But that being said, be careful a little bit with what Waze recommends you sometimes. You know, they'll shave a minute or two off your drive only for you to find out that you spend 30 miles on roads like that instead of, you know, an extra 2 minutes on a highway. And that's something to think about just in terms of route planning and everything else. The other thing I'll mention about the 1LE that I really appreciate as a road trip car, my wife and I, you know, we've each got a bag. We're down here for 5 or 6 days. We've managed to pick up, you know, items and trinkets and a few bottles of bourbon here and there, and everything fits really handily in the trunk, and so that's how I usually run it. I keep my personal bag, my backpack, you know, with all my kind of electronics and all that other stuff just up in the seat behind me. We keep our cooler behind where my wife sits, and then everything else fits really handily in the trunk. So something to be said for this, if I was in an ND Miata or perhaps even a BRZ, I feel like I'd probably be running out of room right now. I would not say the same for a Camaro 1LE, which is one of the great parts about having a 1LE. With that being said, I'll probably do a little bit more filming tomorrow before we get out of town and really get to enjoy the roads a little bit more, and maybe find a few roads that are a little bit more conducive to having kind of some medium speed fun versus this, which is a little sketchy. But we'll go from there. And appreciate you guys for tuning in, and really appreciate you hopefully enjoying a little bit of seeing what it's like down here. Happy to answer any questions in the comment section. Feel free to like and subscribe. That is how YouTube showers us with love, and would appreciate if you guys could do us the favor. So that said, happy to answer any questions about the trip and where we went and what we did and what's worth doing, especially when you got a fun car like this. If you're somewhere on the East Coast or in the Midwest, I really highly recommend taking a few minutes and heading this way, especially around this time of year where the sun's shining and you get to come do fun stuff and beat up on your fun car.